It wasn't just the smell of her body wash or her breakfast fruit that clung to Mads and drove him a little bit crazy, no matter how much distance he put between himself and his pretty assistant. The first time their hands touched, a chill went down his spine, and he actually quivered. In that moment, he knew two things for sure. One, he would absolutely hire her, and two, he absolutely had no business hiring her. She wasn't even the most qualified applicant. A recent graduate from a tiny state school out in the middle of nowhere with no previous office or administrative experience, she showed up with a bright smile and a recommendation from his previous assistant Marie. He had to look up the school to verify it was an accredited university and not just something she made up for her resume. But her references had been effusive, her grades perfect, and she looked him in the eye with a boldness he hadn't seen in a long, long time, maybe even centuries. Inviting her touch was not the best idea. Her fingers cooled the fire constantly burning beneath his skin, bringing him a moment of peace that the ubiquitous air conditioning never produced. She soothed him, and then it was over, and he was left with nothing but deep longing. Where else could she touch him? What other relief could she bring him? He shook his head. No, no, no. He wasn't going to think about that. He wasn't going to allow those images, as delightful as they were, to fill his head. He had too many other things on his plate to be distracted by personal pleasure. Like Charles and Savannah Maelstrom, owners of the most powerful media conglomerate in the nation, and the assholes trying to negotiate a hostile takeover of his media interests. He only owned a handful of cable channels and 3 newspapers, but he wanted to keep them. The trip to California would be tedious at best. They'd throw him a party and try to find a way to buy him. Their billions meant nothing to him, and they owned nothing he coveted. Strictly speaking, April did not need to accompany him, but just being near her brought him a sense of peace. And he would need all the help he could get if he had to spend a long weekend with Savannah Maelstrom. The fact that the world hadn't yet figured out her secret was a miracle to him. It took him nearly 30 minutes to reach the club, and he resented every single second he spent confined in the car. If only he could stretch his wings, he would have been there in less than 5. He would have soared over the skyscrapers and all of the little ants scurrying around in their little ant lives, ignorant of their own insignificance. How terrified they would be to catch a glimpse of his immense power. What would April do if she could see him? If he shed his human suit and allowed her a glimpse of his true self, would she run away from him? Or would she take a step closer? Would she place her fingers on his brow? Would she place a kiss on his inhumane lips? Would she fear him, or would she understand that she would never have anything to fear from him? And how long would he be able to pretend that he didn't long to show her?